Hey guys, the Chinese are coming and they want to take over your driveway. What they want you to park there is one of their increasingly prevalent electric cars. And what surprised me recently is exactly how prevalent they already are. Now, you might be convinced you'll never buy a Chinese car. Maybe you don't like the idea of buying Chinese goods, or you think that they'll never get to the quality levels of a European, Japanese, or South Korean car. And that's fine. But you know what? The Chinese don't care. And they're gonna chip away at your objections until you might not have a choice. Probably. Look, if you already own an electric car, it might already be Chinese and you just didn't notice already. So what I'm gonna do in this video is to give you 9 Chinese electric cars that are either coming to a driveway near you or which might already be on a driveway near you and you just didn't realize. And then we'll talk about how this is happening and why it's only the beginning. This list is in no particular order, but let's start things off with number 9, the Tesla Model Y. What, huh? Whoa, I thought this was Chinese cars. Well, the Model Y is pretty much Chinese. Obviously, it's designed in the USA, but Tesla opened a Shanghai plant, Giga Shanghai, in May 2018 with the intention to get closer to China's manufacturing supply chain and their huge market of car buyers. The Chinese government offered Tesla cheap land, tax benefits, and a bunch of subsidies, open arms. And for the first time ever, they also allowed Tesla to run its own plant without a local partner, something they've never done for a foreign car maker. The New York Times put it really well. China want to be the kings when it comes to electric cars. So they're using the catfish effect. Throw an aggressive fish into the pond and all the little fish who were already there, who might not have been very good at swimming, have to swim harder. And it works for Tesla as well. Half of their global deliveries in 2021 came from China. At number 8, we have Polestar. If you're into your EVs, you should already know about these guys because they make great stuff. The Polestar 2 is a credible rival to the Model 3. The Polestar 1 is a really cool high-performance plug-in hybrid. And guess what? They're kind of Chinese. Back in the day, Polestar used to be Volvo's racing skunk works division, but now, even though they're headquartered in Sweden, their cars are built you know where. Next up at 7 is NIO. When you think of NIO, you probably think of Norway, but the truth is they merely expanded into Norway after starting life in China. It's a very interesting company for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're one of very few electric car companies that offer battery swapping as a means of solving range anxiety. The idea is that if you're driving long distances or you can't be bothered to charge, you visit one of their battery swapping stations and then remove your empty battery and then plug in a fully charged one in minutes as opposed to sitting around charging for hours. They already have a bunch of really interesting cars, including the EP9 sports car and the EC6, ES6 and ES8 SUVs, and they have a whole host of others planned as well. Here's an interesting stat for you. 1 in every 4 people to test drive a NIO bought one. They're worth $66 billion, which means they're worth 20% more than Toyota, even with far fewer sales. So they must be doing something right. Will they come to the UK and other European countries? Kind of inevitable, really. They've said that they're going to expand into at least 5 European markets in addition to Norway by the end of 2022. Okay, at number 6, we have XPeng or XIAOPENG. These guys are focused, according to them, on building smart electric cars for the younger generations. So expect a lot of smart tech. Bit of trivia for you here as well. Back in 2018, the US Department of Justice charged an ex-Apple employee for stealing the trade secrets of Apple's autonomous car project. And then this person tried to get a job at XPeng. Charming. And a year later, Tesla sued one of their former employees, accusing him of stealing their autopilot source code and bringing it to XPeng. Interesting, but maybe not surprising because XPeng are big into autonomous tech. I should point out that they have their own self-driving tech and they didn't nick anything, by the way. Anyway, will they come to Europe? Damn straight, starting with Norway. They've got the G9 and the G3i SUVs and the P7 and the P5 sedans, and they do have plans to come to the rest of Europe and the USA. At number 6, we have Aura, made by Great Wall. You might have heard about these guys because their cars have such funky names. The Aura Cat. Now in China, that's called the Aura Good Cat. And the first one that we're going to get in the UK is the Cat 01, which stands out for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's affordable. You know, for an electric car, and because it has pretty good range, up to 261 miles. And that's around 100 miles more than the entry-level Nissan Leaf. In fact, it's going to be cheaper and have better range than pretty much anything. Should be pretty big. And number 5, we've got the BMW iX3. Yeah, they're German, I know, but even though BMW might be German, the iX3 is made in China through a joint venture with a manufacturing company called Brilliance Auto. The partnership is called BMW Brilliance. So technically the BMW iX3 could be seen as the BMW Brilliance iX3. BMW went into the Chinese market because it's growing so much. It's the biggest. In fact, BMW sell most of their cars in China. So now when BMW build a car, they pretty much build it with China in mind first. So that's why I argue that the iX3, as well as a bunch of other BMW products, is basically Chinese. Okay, number 4, the MG ZS EV. Last year in this country, that thing was the 10th best-selling electric vehicle. They sold over 5,000. MG are owned by SAIC, and that's a Chinese company that's had another massive year in the UK. They shifted 30,600 electric and non-electric cars, and that's up 66% on the year before. Check this out. They outsold Honda, Jaguar, Fiat, Dacia, and even Citroën in the process. A Chinese company basically took a brand that not many people cared about, invested, and now they're selling more than Honda. Okay, number 3, BYD Auto. Not a car, they're a company. These guys are China's biggest electric vehicle brand, and they're the 4th highest valued automotive company in the world behind VW. So it's pretty inevitable that we're gonna see their products in the Western world. Right now, there are more than 50 BYD E6 electric cars in the UK as part of a fleet trial. And you might have actually been on a BYD vehicle. These are the guys that supply the pure electric double-decker buses that we use in London, which I thought was interesting. You know, you've got such a British icon, the double-decker bus, and it's built in China because they're the real experts at this. As for cars, they've just launched the new Han EV in Europe, which looks like a decent rival to the Tesla Model 3, 55,000 euros, 0 to 62 in 3.9, 376 mile range. Keep an eye out for that one and for BYD in general. Next up at number 2 is the Lotus SUV. I already know the name of this one, but I can't tell you what it is yet because I'm sworn to secrecy. But it has the code name Type 132, and you're gonna see this car very soon. It's on this list because even though Lotus is a British company, the Type 132 is gonna be assembled at a Geely factory, that's their owners, in Wuhan, China. You might have heard of it. And it makes sense for Lotus. Utilize Chinese money, manufacturing expertise, and Chinese technology to develop a mass market product. I wouldn't be surprised if the Type 132 sells more units in China than it does anywhere else. Watch this space. Okay, number 1 on my list, and again, this is no particular order, is the Dacia Spring, believe it or not. They're not Chinese though, are they? They're Romanian. But the Spring is built in China. This one's interesting because it's super cheap. It costs around 16,800 euros, which is around 14 grand in our money. And for that cash, there's nothing else that I can think of. We don't get the Spring at the moment in the UK, but sales are going crazy. They've taken 40,000 orders in 8 months. So everybody wants a piece of it. It's a funky looking electric city car with a 27 kilowatt hour battery pack and a range of around 100 miles. So it's perfect for the city. Not everybody likes the idea of the Spring though. Renault unions are pretty angry right now that Renault, Dacia's parent company, are building a car in China and then shipping it back to Europe because Chinese workers get the jobs that the French workers might have expected to get. But that's the way it seems to be going. China's a huge market, so it makes sense for manufacturers to open up shop over there, build cars for a Chinese audience, and then export those cars back to Europe and the rest of the world. It also makes sense because China has an edge with the battery tech. Their knowledge of lithium-ion cell chemistry is becoming unrivaled, especially the newer chemistries like LFP, lithium iron phosphate. And it's not just Chinese cars that are coming. China's best-known battery company, CATL, is now building a factory in Germany, and they're gonna sell batteries to Mercedes, BMW, VW, and Stellantis. The big battery players are always the South Koreans or the Japanese, but the Chinese are gaining the upper hand and quickly. Tesla, they recently agreed to secure their LFP batteries from CATL in China instead of Panasonic in 2020 because it's cheaper and more reliable than the NMC chemistry that Panasonic was offering. VW, they're partnering with Guoxuan, again from China, to create an LFP battery plant in Germany. Stellantis are doing a similar thing. They've partnered with Svolt, which is a spin-off from Great Wall, China. All of this newfound focus on cheaper Chinese battery chemistry is scaring the South Koreans in particular, who thought that the Europeans would go for their fancy cells, which are more energy dense. All of those nice e-trons are all very well, but we also want cheap EV runarounds as well, and no one is beating the Chinese when it comes to those. Here's a good example. The third best-selling model in China for 2021 was the Mini EV. No, not that Mini EV, not the one that we have. It's the one from WULING HONGGUANG. I can't pronounce it. It's a joint venture between SAIC and General Motors. Yes, that General Motors. It's a tiny 4-seat EV about the size of a Smart that costs 3 grand, will go 75 miles in base form, and it even hits 62 miles an hour, and it looks all right. Destroys the Citroen Ami in terms of price and specs, and the Chinese love it. We might have to relax our safety legislation over here to get it in Europe, but if that ever happens, China will swamp the market and we will be swimming in cheap electric cars. So the Chinese are on their way in a big way. Whatever your opinions are on that, it seems that they have a huge part to play on the world of electric cars in the not too distant future. Let me know what you think about this all in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.